Augustus Albrecht, and I am part of the 2017-2018 U.S. History class taught by Mr. Squiers. We were given a project that entailed making a approximately 5-minute video on a topic from U.S. history that interested us. My video will be about the Iroquois Confederacy and the little-known qualities that had a very large influence on the drafting of the U.S. Constitution. I chose this topic because of the uninformed yet common view of Native Americans as savage animals that are in need of enlightenment, kind of like a white man's burden view. I intend to dispel that misconception with the following governmental concepts that the U.S. borrowed from the Iroquois Confederacy. The first of these qualities is universal suffrage of women, or women's right to vote. The second is the pattern of states within a state. The third is their tradition of treating chiefs as servants of the people instead of their masters. And the fourth is the demand that community respect the diversity of men and their dreams. I would like to make it abundantly clear that I did not come up with these 4 governmental concepts on my own. I got them from an online documentary. I would now like to play a short clip from that documentary that gives a current-day perspective from a Mohawk.
This Iroquois beaded belt tells the story of the member nations uniting. They adopted an oral constitution and a governing council of 50 representatives. The founders of our nation were facing the problem of uniting sovereign states when they wrote the United States Constitution. And they did adopt ideas from the Iroquois League.
Well, immediately, always they were warned.
Ray Fadden, a Mohawk, is curator of the Six Nations Museum in Onchiota, New York. An expert on the Iroquois Confederacy, Fadden says our form of government was not born from European ideals.
Over here in America, those chiefs were representatives, something like Congress, I suppose. They simply represented their clans, and since everyone belonged to a clan, in plain English, they represented their people. Were put in office by their people to represent them in their government.
The Iroquois Confederacy is believed to have been established sometime before 1600. A lack of a written history makes it hard to pinpoint the exact establishment date, but an oral history called the Great Law is kept alive by the elders of the community and is used as a living record to establish these dates. The Native Americans called themselves Haudenosaunee, or people of the Longhouse. It was believed that all 5 nations were under one longhouse to protect them from warfare and keep them at peace. The original 5 nations that formed the Iroquois Confederacy were located in modern-day New York State and were called the Mohawk, the Keeper of the Eastern Door, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, and the Seneca, the Keeper of the Western Door. To any viewers who may question the legitimacy of the claim that the Iroquois Confederacy had a profound impact on the democratic ideals that can be found in the U.S. Constitution, I will offer you evidence that can be found in the concurrent House Resolution 331 that was passed in 1988. Concurrent Resolution 331 states, and I quote, "To acknowledge the contribution of the Iroquois Confederacy of Nations to the development of the United States Constitution, and to reaffirm the continuing government-to-government relationship between Indian tribes and the United States established in the Constitution. Whereas the original framers of the Constitution, including, most notably, George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, are known to have greatly admired the concepts of the 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, whereas the confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy, as were many of the democratic principles which were incorporated into the Constitution itself." As mentioned in the House Resolution 331, Benjamin Franklin did in fact recognize and envy the unique governmental qualities he saw in the Iroquois Confederacy. In his 1751 letter to James Parker, Benjamin Franklin said, "It would be a strange thing if 6 nations of ignorant savages should be capable of forming a scheme for such an union, and be able to execute it in such a manner as that it has subsisted ages and appears indissoluble. and yet that a like union should be impracticable for 10 or a dozen colonies, to whom it is more necessary and must be more advantageous, and who cannot be supposed to want an equal understanding of their interests. Another aspect of Iroquois influence on the thought of British colonists is brought to us by historian Ellen Holmes Pearson, who is an associate professor at the University of North Carolina, Asheville, and received her PhD in colonial and revolutionary American history. This quote comes from 1744, when Conasatego, leader of the Onondaga Nation and spokesperson for the Iroquois Confederacy, advised the British colonists, quote, "We heartily recommended union and a good agreement between you, our brethren. Our wise forefathers established union and amity between the 5 nations. This has made us formidable. This has given us great weight and authority with our neighboring nations. We are a powerful confederacy, and by your observing the same methods our wise forefathers have taken, you will acquire fresh strength and power." On June 11, 1776, while the question of independence was being debated, the visiting Iroquois chiefs were formally invited into the meeting hall of the Continental Congress. There was a speech delivered, in which they were addressed as brothers and told of the delegates' wish that the friendship between them would continue as long as the sun shall shine and waters run. The speech also expressed the hope that the new Americans and the Iroquois act as one people and have but one heart. After this speech, an Onondaga chief requested permission to give Hancock an Indian name. The Congress graciously consented, and so the president was renamed Caranduan, or the Great Tree. With the Iroquois chiefs inside the halls of Congress on the eve of American independence, the impact of Iroquois ideas on the founders is unmistakable. History is indebted to Charles Thomas, an adopted Delaware, whose knowledge of and respect for American Indians is reflected in the attention that he gave to the ceremony in the records of the Continental Congress.